Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are tackling something every developer runs into sooner or later, and that's forms. Now, if you've ever built a form in React, you know it can feel very crazy. First, you're managing state, and then it hits you. You actually need to validate emails, you need to ensure passwords match before they're submitted to your database. And before you know, you've written more validation logic than actual app logic. But today I'm going to introduce you to two amazing libraries, and that's the React Hook Form and Zod. Um, but before we dive into these two libraries, let's look at how forms typically work in React. You've probably done this before using the useState hook. So here we have a simple form with fields for name, email, password, and confirm password. So we have created states for each field, and we have plugged in the states into the input field. So as you type, the state updates using the onChange event listener. Now this is just basic. I also added an onSubmit from the listener here and attached the undo submit function, which is going to prevent default behaviors and going to console log the state values and also set the values to empty fields once we have console log the values. And yeah, you can see that in action here. And you notice the passwords don't match, and like, yeah, nothing is checking if it's actually a valid email. In real world forms, you actually need validation. Let's add basic validation. But yeah, create a function to handle validation for the four input fields. So for the name, we're checking if it's empty, and we're setting, okay, we need to create an error state. So we're creating just one state instead of creating like individual states for each um for each field. So this state, we're going to be spreading all the values and updating the particular value that relates to that field. For example, here, if we're checking if the field is empty, then we're going to update the full name object key and like assign a value that full name is required, and we're going to like spread other values. And for for the email, we're checking if it is empty. We're going to say email is required, and we're also like using this regular expression to check if it's actually a valid email. If it's not a valid email, we're going to like update the object to say that email is not valid. And now same thing for password, and for confirm password, they're checking if the confirm password and password match. Else we're going to like update the object to say password do not match. And yeah, that is that. And this state, we have to plug that into the form so that like users can actually see whatever error message has been, whatever is the validation message. So here we're just like checking if there's actually something for full name. We're going to display this, and we're going to like put the message here. It's going to display. And same thing for email, for same thing for email, same thing for password and confirm password. I'm just going to update the value. So when you try to, so we have but we've not yet used the validate function. So in the undo submit function, we're going to wrap this console log, but let's say we're going to wrap everything here and say if validate form, yeah, if validate form, we're just going to put everything here. We're going to put everything here. So this means we're not going to see anything in the console except the form values are all valid. For example, now when you try to click the submit yeah, the sign up button without like any field. It's gonna like pop up all the errors that all the fields are required. And then once you start filling the fields, the errors are gonna go away. And then when you put an invalid value, the error changed to email is not valid. And until it is valid before that error goes away. And here we will like put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It says it must be 6 characters. Now it's 6 characters. It does not match, and I think it should match now. And then it submits. So basically, you'll be handling whatever sends your data to the database somewhere here, and then we're setting the values to empty. And this is like a very basic form of validation. But imagine the amount of lines of code we have to write to implement validation for just 4 fields. 4 fields. Now imagine doing this for a big form with lots of fields. Not only do you have to write like a whole lot of code, but all this state management and validation logic makes the code hard to read and maintain. It technically works, but like it's not the most efficient way. And this is why we're going to be making use of the React Hook Form library. All right, so let's talk about React Hook Form library. Now, React Hook Form manages the form state internally, so you don't have to like think about creating states for all your input fields, and that actually means less code. And like to make use of the React Hook Form library, the first thing you have to do is to install it. So I'm going to open the terminal and just create one here. Now, once you've got it installed, let's dive into the code and start refactoring our form with the React Hook form. To start, we can do away with all the states and let us import use form from React Hook form library. I'm also going to do away with the validate function. Yep, and I'm going to do it with the wrap. Yeah, I can also do it with this for now. Yep, for now. And we can also do away with all of this value change, everything that has to do with states. Yeah, we're going to leave the error messages because we're going to make use of it. Now, we need to initialize React the use form in our component so that we can get everything we need. Now, okay, schedule is like, so we need register, need undo submit, errors. I still do this for now. Yep. So initialize use form. Okay, now to make our form even more reliable, let's define a form. Let's define a type here. Now, this type will include each field in our form, and like we're going to specify, I think like they are all strings, yes. Now, by defining our form fields this way, we get the benefit of type safety. And this means if we make a typo in one of the field names, or let's say we accidentally try to use the wrong data type, TypeScript will cache it and show us an error right away. So now we're going to pass this form field type to the use form as a generic. So use form knows exactly what field to expect and their types. And the best part, this also means like we get auto completion when we use register. So we are getting register from here, and we can use it on each input field. So when we use register, we get to know like, so it shows us we have confirmed password, email, full name, and password. And this is only possible because we have defined the types. So this is for full name, and then we can go here and do that for email and do that for password, and do that for confirm password. With all of this set up, now when you type in your input fields, the values is going to be sent to React hook form, and it's going to handle it for you. Instead of you having to create state for each field to handle this by yourself, React hook form is going to handle all of this for you. Now let's update the handle submit function. You may be wondering how we're going to get the data since we don't have the states, how we're going to access the data. So this time around, we no longer need the event listener. So the first thing is you need an undo submit function, yeah, which is here from use form, which we are going to use to wrap this function we created. I think it's just best for us to rename this. We can rename this to maybe on submit. Rename this to on submit. And then we're gonna get like a data from here, and we can actually like log this data. But since we're making use of TypeScript, we need a submit handler, which we are then going to add here with the type. And now all the errors should go away. Okay, it's telling us errors is not defined. Yeah, that's because we've not yet handled errors. But to let this error go away, we can just bring in from state here. And we're gonna touch on this later on in the video. But yeah, we can just put this here and like yeah, the errors are gonna go away. So basically now when you click submit here, we're gonna get, we've not yet handled or valid from the validations yet, but I'm just ensuring like everything works without us needing to create individual states for each field. Notice the code is cleaner, there is no excessive states. Here we're just handling types, we're ensuring like there is type safety, else like this is all the code, and like yeah, we're adding like the register function to all the fields, and we're able to like access all of this. Okay, now let's add validation to our form. Now, one of the great things about React Hook form is that we can define all our validation rules directly in the register method. So we're going to make all the fields required. And to do this, we just need to add like a second parameter to the register method, which is going to be an object, and we're going to say required. Now, this is the message. And now in this error message, we can adjust it to say error.fullname.message. And yeah, we're going to have access to this message if this input field is not filled, or if the value is empty. Same thing here, we're going to add, now for email, we're also going to add another level of validation, and that's checking, we're going to add like a pattern. This is a regex regular expression, which is going to check the value to be sure it's a valid email. Now we have required here, and like if the email field is not filled, this message is going to be used, and if it is not a valid email, it's going to say invalid email address, and we're going to adjust this to actually display the message. Now the same thing for password, we are going to add required password, and we're also going to ensure the minimum length. So we're going to say min length, wants the value to be 6. So here, if there is no password, it's going to say password is required. Else, if the value is less than 6, it's going to say password must be at least 6 characters. And we're also going to update this to display the message. And now for confirm password, we have to check. So first of all, we need to ensure that like the field is required. Secondly, to validate the password, we are going to create a function that has the value of the confirm password. And we're going to make use of the wash method, which would have to like import. We have to import wash Yep, from use form. And so basically what it's going to do is it's going to compare the password value against like the current value from the confirmed password. And if it does not match, the message is going to be password does not match. And then we update the message. And that is how about that. By the time we're using Zod, we are gonna take away all of this all of this validation and it's gonna be done easily. But for now, this is this. And now we can now go back to our form and try to submit, and it's gonna give us all the error messages, full name is required. Now when we try to type an invalid mail, immediately it's gonna update and say invalid email address. Now when you try to type password, the error message changes and say password must be at least 6 characters. And once you type that, that goes and that goes. And then once you type it's gonna tell you the password is not matched. So they actually have to match. Yep, and then last thing for the name, and then it's going to submit the details. Now we've been able to add validation rules to each field in just a few lines of code. Reactive form takes care of the rest. So we don't have to write complex validation logic ourselves. Reactive form takes care of all of this for us. Now, I did not touch on how the errors are working. So one thing you need to know is that React Platform makes error handling simple by providing us with an error object. In when we're like trying to handle this normally with states, you remember we created like an error state, which was an object. Now React Form automatically provides us with an error object, which you can get from form state. There are more things you can get from form state, like a submitting and all, which you can use to handle, but we're going to talk about that later. Now, with this error state, it's actually an object, and this object is what we are using here. So, like before, we're checking like if error the full name exists, and then we're outputting the message. Now, this message is based on what is here. Yeah, like I mentioned, there's more you can actually get from the error. Like for example, you can get the is submitting state. So normally you would have to create like another state, like a loading state. So for example, if this was gonna perform like let's say promise, okay, I'm gonna need an async. Let me just create a promise that like loads for wait new promise. Now this is gonna take 1 second to fulfill. And now we can use this for our button. We can come here and like disable the button if it's submitting. Now we can change this text to say if it's submitting, yeah, loading and all. So now when you try to sign up, okay, so this is invalid. It's gonna show loading and then like the value. Yeah, submit. Yeah, that is like one advantage. So you see how it takes away the whole need to like create states when managing your forms. Now, like before, when you submit the form, we clear the fields, we clear the values from the form. And when you make it of React hook form, it's actually simple. You just need to import this so you can have access to this. And then here you can just call this. Now, when you want it to clear all the form fields, you just call it. But if you just want it to clear particular fields, then you need to like create an object and specify what field you want to clear. But for us, we want to clear all fields. So now when you type in the form and submit, once everything is over, it clears the form field. All right. Remember I said we're going to be implementing validation with React Hook Form and Zod. Now we've not yet used Zod and like yeah, everything looks pretty well, but I can tell you that we can still modify things and make things look better. And this is where Zod comes in. Now, Zod is a powerful schema-based validation library. It allows you to define all your validation rules in a single, let's say, reusable schema, which keeps our code organized and clean. Plus, actually, Zod works perfectly with TypeScript, giving us like type safety on top of validation. Now, let's get started. We need to install Zod, and we also need to install the hook form resolver. Now, you may ask, what does this resolver do? Now, so basically, we are making use of React form library. So the zodResolver acts as like a bridge between React hook and Zod. This resolver takes our Zod schema, which we're going to create, the Zod schema, which we're going to create, and applies its validation rules directly in React hook form. So we don't have to like write all these inline validations we have written for each field. It's going to take away all of this and like it's going to make use of the schema. So we're going to install both. Sorry. Now, once this installation is complete, we are going to plug in, first of all, we can do away with this type and create our schema. And to create the schema, we are going to, let's just create const, let's just sign up schema. We can just call this schema. Yep, schema. And first of all, we need to import Zod. So we're going to say import the from Zod. Yeah, and we're also going to import the zodResolver. We're importing that from the hook form slash resolver, which we imported slash Zod. We don't need all of this. We don't need all of this. So now we can create the schema. So that will be it's going to be an object that's going to have all our fields. And we're going to say full name is going to be a string, definitely. Email is going to be a string. We're also going to implement validation for email. So this is going to take away all of this pattern and all. It's going to do all of that for you. And it's also going to check to ensure we have an email. And for name also, we no longer need this because yeah, it's going to check. And for name, we can ensure that we have like at least the length of like 3. Yeah. And for password, we want a length of at least 6. And this is same for confirm password. Now with all of this done, so we can now adjust this. So here we're using form fields, and now we can just like infer. We have the infer and type of schema, and that will be all. We can copy this and use it here also. Yep. And that is that. Next thing for us to plug Zod with React Hook from like I explained earlier. We'll do that in here. I'm gonna add resolver and yeah, we're gonna plug in the schema. Now this tells React Hook form to use our Zod schema for all validation. So every time the form is submitted or field changes, it checks them against the rules we defined in Zod. It's going to check against all of these rules we defined in Zod. So we can now go here and ensure we delete all other rules. Ensure we delete all other rules. Now for this password match, we're going to come back to that. Now to ensure the password match, maybe we just did that. Now, so we no longer need this. Now to ensure the passwords match, so here we need to refine the data. We're going to be checking for to ensure that the password is equals to the confirm. We're going to ensure that the values are equal. Else, if they are not equal, we're going to say, okay, password does not match. We're going to say password does not match. And this message, we need to define where we want the message to appear. That is going to be the part. And for part, we want it to appear for confirm password. Now we want the message to appear for that means this message is going to be assigned to the confirm password in the errors object, yeah. So remember that. And yeah, all of this is still intact. It still works. And if you want to specify the message you want, normally Zod does this for us. But in case you want to specify, let's say, a custom message, you can just like define that here. You can just use the message parameter. You just define it directly. You can say like full name is required. Yeah, and that is that. Yeah, you see, we have this and that is because like we skipped the bracket here. So that is that. We don't need this. I skip. Once you save, I'll make sure the passwords don't match. And it's gonna tell us string must contain at least 6 characters. But okay, and that is because we're adding this here. We don't need to attach this for the confirm password. We just want it to tell us that the password does not match. Yep. So yeah, telling us password does not match. We make the it's gonna tell us it's an invalid email. We take this away, it's gonna tell us phone name is required. Take this away, it's gonna tell us must have like at least 6 characters here. So when we try to make this match, those errors are going to disappear, and then we can try and have like a valid email, try and put something here. Then we click the sign up button, we're going to have these values. Basically, you've seen how we've gone from having like a whole function to that handles validation to just creating a basic schema that is going to ensure type safety and is also going to implement validation, and then just initializing the use form. And then in the use form we get a whole lot of methods which we can use to perform all forms of manipulation in our form. We're plugging in the schema, and then in our onSubmit function, we're handling everything possible. And in our input field, we're not doing anything complex. We're just attaching the register, and we no longer need to plug into a state. And then, as usual, we are outputting our errors. And our form is basic. Our form component is way easier to read and maintain. Yeah, if you found this video helpful, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe for more tutorials. If you have any question or if there's anything else you'd like to see, you can also drop it in the comment section.